What do you get when you mix Brooklyn hustle, billionaire brain cells, and a Basquiat on the wall? You get Jay-Z, the man who turned rap verses into revenue streams and Marcy projects into monopoly properties. But let's be real, Jay-Z didn't just make money, he made moves. The kind of moves that make accountants sweat and Forbes editors double-check their calculators. In 2025, Hov's empire isn't just big, it's galactic. We're talking private jets, mega mansions, and a net worth orbiting around $2.5 billion. And the best part? He did it without ever launching a How to Be a Billionaire masterclass on Instagram. So buckle up because we're cracking open the vault to explore Jay-Z's billionaire lifestyle. The houses, the cars, the jets, the art, and the money moves that made him hip-hop's first real mogul kingpin. From Brooklyn's concrete to Bel Air marble, this is how Shawn Carter became the CEO of Cool. Let's rewind the tape. Before the Grammys and Champagne Towers, there was Marcy Projects, a place where dreams didn't come true, they got stolen. Young Shawn Carter learned fast. If you wanted to survive, you had to outthink, outgrind, and outshine everyone around you. When no record label wanted to sign him, he didn't beg, he built. Roc-A-Fella Records, 1995. A name that now sounds like a luxury label, but back then it was just three hungry guys, a borrowed studio, and a lot of faith in a mixtape kid with metaphors for days. The result? Reasonable Doubt. It didn't go platinum overnight, but it became the hip-hop business Bible, the sound of a hustler with a Harvard mindset. Today, that same catalog brings him about $5 million a year in royalties. Not bad for someone who used to sell CDs out of his car trunk. And when he hit the road, the checks got even fatter. His 444 tour pulled nearly $50 million across 32 shows. Then came the tag team takeover with Beyoncé, the on-the-run tours that grossed $364 million. Translation, every time Jay and Bey hit a stage, they basically buy another mansion. And speaking of buying, let's talk about Jay-Z's favorite pastime, turning bottles into billions. Back in 2014, Hov bought Armand de Brignac. You know it as Ace of Spades, the gold-bottled champagne that looks like it belongs in a museum. 7 years later, he sold half of it to luxury giant LVMH for a jaw-dropping $640 million valuation. That deal alone earned him roughly $300 million in cash and stock. That's not sipping, that's strategic drinking. But Jay-Z didn't stop there. He took his taste buds to cognac country with Douce. Fast forward to 2023. Bacardi buys the majority stake for $750 million. Jay keeps about $100 million slice just to remind the industry who runs the liquor lane. Combined, that's nearly $500 million from 2 drinks. Forget cheers, as this man's toasts come with commas. Now here's the thing. Most rappers talk about stacking cash. Jay-Z, he stacks companies. Enter Roc Nation, his empire of music, sports, and entertainment launched in 2008. It reps everyone from Rihanna to sports superstars, and it even co-produced the Super Bowl halftime show that earned Jay an Emmy in 2022. Estimated valuation, $75 million and counting. It's not a label anymore. It's a global movement. Before that, there was Roc-A-Fella, the seed money of a dynasty. He sold it to Def Jam in pieces for around $11.5 million. Pocket change compared to today. But that sale was the launch pad for everything else. Then there's Tidal, the streaming service he bought for $56 million in 2015 and flipped to Jack Dorsey's company, Block Inc., for nearly $300 million. That move alone netted him around $150 million in cash and stock. If Spotify is the Walmart of streaming, Tidal was Jay-Z's designer boutique. Limited edition, high margin, and fully owned. And don't forget his investment wizardry. Through his firm, Marcy Venture Partners, named after the projects that built him, Jay-Z turned $2 million into $70 by betting early on Uber. He's also poured cash into fintech firms like Block, sneaker startups, and even cannabis through his brand Monogram. Altogether, his investment portfolio, estimated at $200 million and growing faster than his rhyme flow in the 90s. Here's where it gets fun. Art. When Jay-Z raps about Basquiat, he's not name-dropping for clout. He's literally got Basquiat's hanging in his living room. His collection is worth around 70 million, featuring works from Jean-Michel himself and other modern masters. That's what happens when you turn Picasso, baby, from a song into a financial strategy. And if all that wasn't enough, Hov's even cashing in on culture. He's had brand deals with Budweiser, Reebok, and Cherry Coke. And remember Roc-A-Wear, the streetwear empire he co-founded in the early 2000s that pulled in 700 million a year at its peak? He sold that in 2007 for 204 million. That was before rappers knew what equity even meant. At this point, you're probably wondering, how does a kid who started with a mic end up owning more assets than small countries? Simple. Jay-Z doesn't chase trends, he creates ecosystems. But hold that thought, because if you think the money moves are wild, wait till you see how he spends it. From a mansion that literally had to be rotated for the perfect sunset to a private jet gifted by Beyoncé herself. This next part of Jay-Z's story is where luxury meets legend. Now let's talk about Jay-Z's idea of home. And by home, I mean architectural flexes disguised as properties. Because when you've got billions, you don't just buy houses, you buy statements. Let's start in the Hamptons, where Jay-Z and Beyoncé dropped $25.9 million on a place that looks like a Bond villain's summer retreat. It's called the Pond House, but don't let that name fool you. This thing is 12,000 square feet of "don't even think about knocking on my door." Originally listed at nearly $40 million, the Carters swooped in like financial ninjas and negotiated it down by $14 million. That's not a discount, that's domination. The mansion sits on 2 acres of waterfront with a guest house, a marble fireplace the size of a Kia, and a bathtub carved out of a single slab of marble. The builder literally rotated the house 90 degrees so they could get a better sunset view. Imagine being so rich you move the house instead of moving your chair. That's not real estate, that's alpha estate. But this Hamptons hideout isn't just luxury, it's a fortress of calm. The property borders a 17-acre nature reserve, which means total privacy. No paparazzi drones, no nosy neighbors, just birds, breeze, and billionaire peace of mind. It's the kind of place where you sip cognac on the deck and contemplate which company to acquire next. And that's just the summer spot. When they're on the West Coast, things get cinematic. In Bel Air, Jay-Z and Beyoncé spent a cool $88 million on a compound so sleek it could host the next James Bond movie. Designed by architect Paul McLean, the guy who builds homes for billionaires who say, make it look like a museum, but with a helipad, this place has 6 structures spread across 2 acres. Inside, over 30,000 square feet of minimalist perfection. Floor-to-ceiling glass walls that slide open like magic. 8 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, a private library, a recording studio, a full gym, a home theater, a spa, and yes, a 15-car garage. Because when you own a fleet of cars worth more than the GDP of small islands, you need a proper parking lot. And the security? Bulletproof glass, motion sensors, a gate that looks like it could repel a zombie apocalypse. This isn't just a home, it's Fort Carter, the kind of place where the Wi-Fi probably has 2-factor authentication. Now, most people would stop there, but the Carters don't stop, they escalate. In 2023, they bought what became the most expensive home ever sold in California, a $200 million architectural masterpiece in Malibu. Designed by the legendary Japanese architect Tadao Ando, this place is like a temple carved by the gods of concrete and silence. Minimalist, serene, and terrifyingly beautiful. It sits on 8 acres along Billionaire's Row. Yes, that's a real place, overlooking the Pacific. And the entire estate is shaped like an L that frames the ocean. The lines are so clean you could eat sushi off them. There's an infinity pool that disappears into the horizon, a lawn so perfect it probably has its own gardener's gardener, and an underground garage that could host a car show. Inside, 30,000 square feet of art, air, and silence. The vibe is Zen monastery meets Bond villain lair. There's a private theater, a gym, a luxury spa, and a temperature-controlled wine cellar. Even the walls look like they meditate. This isn't just luxury, its philosophy in concrete. And just to flex even harder, the property was originally listed at $295 million. Jay-Z and Beyoncé swooped in and sliced off nearly $100 million like it was a coupon. If Monopoly had a billionaire edition, this would be Boardwalk and Park Place combined, with solar panels. Together, their real estate portfolio is estimated north of $350 million. That's more than most pop stars' total net worths. But the best part? Every single property was strategically bought. Discounts, prime locations, long-term value. Jay-Z plays real estate like chess, not checkers. The man doesn't just live in houses, he acquires assets that appreciate while he sleeps. Now, if you're thinking all that concrete and glass is impressive, wait till you see what's parked inside those garages. Because when Jay-Z isn't negotiating multi-million-dollar real estate deals, he's collecting cars like Thanos collects Infinity Stones. If garages could talk, Jay-Z's would sound like a symphony of horsepower and ego. We're talking machines that don't just drive. They announce your existence to the neighborhood 5 blocks away. His car collection isn't transportation. It's a museum curated by someone allergic to basic. Let's kick it off with a classic. The 1957 Chevrolet Corvette C1. Candy red, white panels, and enough vintage swagger to make James Dean jealous. Back in the day, this thing sold for $3,000. Today, over $100,000 on auction days. And that's before you factor in the owned by Jay-Z tax. Inside, it's pure nostalgia. Analog gauges, chrome trim, and the kind of leather that smells like 1950s rebellion. But Jay doesn't just stay stateside. He's got European flavor too. The Alfa Romeo Spider, a car that screams old money vacationing on the Amalfi Coast. Sleek, smooth, and unapologetically Italian. It's the kind of ride where you don't drive fast because you're late. You drive slow because everyone needs time to stare. Then there's Beyoncé's Flex, the birthday gift that redefined go big or go home. For one of her birthdays, Jay bought her a Rolls-Royce Silver Cloud worth around $1 million. Handcrafted elegance, walnut wood interior, and the quietest ride this side of heaven. That car doesn't move, it glides, and the best part? Only a few thousand were ever made. Translation? It's rarer than finding a rapper with zero jewelry. Of course, Queen Bey got her revenge. For Jay's 40th birthday, she hit him with a Bugatti Veyron Grand Sport. $2 million of pure physics, 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, top speed of 250 miles per hour, and a design so sleek it looks like it's speeding even when parked. That's not a car, that's a land-based spaceship. And when Jay wants a touch of British refinement, he's got a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Because at some point, luxury stops being about arriving and starts being about floating. Add to that a Maybach Excelero, a machine so rare only one was ever made, valued at $8 million. It looks like Darth Vader's weekend car. When that thing pulls up, silence doesn't just fall, it kneels. But here's the kicker. For Jay-Z, the garage isn't the final destination. Because when the road ends, the runway begins. In true queenly fashion, Beyoncé gifted Jay something that literally soars. A $40 million Bombardier Challenger 850 private jet. Translation, a flying penthouse with wings. It's got multiple living areas, a full kitchen, leather lounges, and a master bedroom. The man can literally nap between continents. This isn't travel, it's teleportation with catering. And yes, he customized it. Because when your name is Shawn Carter, even your clouds come with legroom. The jet comfortably seats up to 19 people. Or, as Jay might say, me, Beyoncé, and 17 witnesses to greatness. But of course, when you own a jet like that, vacations hit different. In 2020, the Carters decided regular resorts were for mortals and rented the 350-foot super yacht Lana in Croatia. Price tag? $2 million for a single week. Amenities, heated pool, spa, cinema, helipad, and a crew of 31 ready to say yes sir in 6 languages. That's not a yacht. That's a floating palace with Wi-Fi. Imagine sipping Ace of Spades on the deck while the sun sets over the Adriatic, then walking down to your onboard cinema to watch yourself perform at Coachella. That's Jay-Z's version of me time. But hold up, the flexing doesn't stop at cars and jets. Because for Jay-Z, luxury isn't about owning things, it's about owning moments. The kind of moments where your watch costs more than a starter home. Here's the thing about Jay-Z. He doesn't just buy luxury, he curates it. His taste is so refined it probably has its own trust fund. And while most people check their bank balance before a purchase, Jay probably checks his portfolio performance for the day before buying another timepiece. Let's start with the wrist. Jay-Z's watch collection is a museum of horological insanity. First, you've got the Cartier Crash Skeleton, a surrealist masterpiece that looks like Salvador Dali designed it after a long night out. Price tag? Around $160,000. Then there's the Patek Philippe Aquanaut chronograph, sleek, sporty, and humble by Jay's standards at $200,000. But we're just warming up. His Patek Grandmaster chime, 2 dials, 20 complications, and a crocodile leather strap hand-stitched by angels. That one alone cost $2.2 million. Oh, and the Richard Mille Tourbillon split seconds chronograph, $2.5 million. Pocket change compared to the Richard Mille made of green sapphire worth $3 million. And for his birthday, Beyoncé casually gifted him a $5 million diamond-encrusted Hublot Big Bang. Yes, $5 million. That's not a watch, that's a wrist mortgage. Every tick of that clock is basically saying, you could have bought a mansion, but you didn't. And it doesn't stop at the wrist. Jay's jewelry collection shines hard enough to get its own solar panel. One of his favorite pieces is a solid gold Cuban link chain worth $234,000. Subtle by his standards. His accessories aren't about showing off, they're about storytelling. Every gem has a headline, but Jay-Z's eye for beauty goes beyond glitter. His art collection? A straight-up flex disguised as cultural appreciation. He owns several works by Jean-Michel Basquiat, including Mecca, which he reportedly snagged for over $4.5 million. Another, equals Pi, cost around $250,000. Today, his art collection is estimated north of $70 million. Let that sink in. The man literally raps about buying art that appreciates faster than most stocks. I bought some artwork for $1 million 2 years later that's worth $2 million. That wasn't a lyric, that was a lesson. Jay-Z's art isn't decoration, it's diversification. And speaking of diversification, Jay once gifted Beyoncé her own private island. That's right, a $20 million island in the Florida Keys, because apparently, I got you flowers just doesn't hit the same when your net worth starts with a B. Together, Jay-Z and Beyoncé have turned gift-giving into an Olympic sport. We're talking yachts, jets, cars, islands, watches. Every occasion's a competition in who can outflex the other. And somehow, they both win. Now, it's easy to get lost in the glitz. But the truth is, all this luxury is built on discipline, ownership, and long-term play. Jay-Z once said, "I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman." And he wasn't joking. Every brand, every verse, every deal. It's part of a strategy. But behind the money and masterpieces, there's a story that's far more powerful than the price tags. A story about a kid from Brooklyn who built generational wealth brick by brick, verse by verse. And at the center of that story is something money can't buy: love and loyalty. Because let's be honest, every empire needs a queen. And Jay-Z's story wouldn't be half as legendary without Beyoncé. So let's talk about that. The partnership, the power, and the personal life behind the billionaire facade. Jay-Z and Beyoncé, the royal couple of not just music, but modern wealth itself. You can talk about Bill and Melinda, you can mention Elon and whoever he's dating this week, but when it comes to global power couples, Jay and Bey don't compete, they set the curve. Their story didn't start in a boardroom or a tabloid headline. It started in the studio, 2002. The track? Euro 3 Bonnie and Clyde. Chemistry so smooth it made everyone suspicious. Then came Crazy in Love, and the world collectively said, yep, that's it. That's the couple. It wasn't just a song, it was a prophecy. They dated quietly, away from the flashbulbs, letting the music do the talking. And when they finally tied the knot in 2008, it was so private, even the wedding planner probably had to sign an NDA. The ceremony took place in Jay's Tribeca penthouse. No magazine deals, no live streams, no circus. Just two global icons saying forever behind closed doors. And because subtlety is their love language, Beyoncé's engagement ring was a $5 million Lorraine Schwartz diamond. Not just any diamond, a meteorite pretending to be jewelry. That rock shines so bright it could double as stage lighting. Over the years, they've become masters of privacy in a world addicted to oversharing. No scandals, no chaos, just strategy and synergy. Sure, they've had public bumps, like that infamous elevator moment. Yeah, we all saw it. But the way they handled it? Classic Carter. Silence, art, redemption. They turned a tabloid scandal into Grammy-winning therapy through albums like Lemonade and 444. That's not drama. That's brand genius. Their family life, though, that's where it gets wholesome. In 2012, the world met Blue Ivy Carter, a baby so famous she charted on Billboard before kindergarten. Jay dropped a track called Glory featuring her newborn cries, making Blue the youngest artist ever to appear on a Billboard chart. That's what happens when your dad's a mogul and your mom's Beyoncé. You start breaking records before you can spell your name. Then, in 2017, came the twins, Rumi and Sir. Beyoncé's father confirmed it, and just like that, the Carter family became a dynasty. No publicity stunts, no interviews, just quiet strength and generational planning. Because make no mistake, the Carters aren't just raising kids, they're raising shareholders. Every move Jay-Z makes now screams legacy. He's not chasing charts. He's chasing chapters in history books. From funding scholarships through the Shawn Carter Foundation to pushing social justice initiatives, prison reform, and minority business ownership, the man's building more than wealth. He's building infrastructure for change. And Beyoncé? She's right there beside him, matching his energy bar for bar, deal for deal, impact for impact. Together, they've proven that love and business aren't opposites. They're multipliers. They've mastered the art of partnership, turning collaboration into empire, loyalty into leverage, and marriage into a billion-dollar brand. Now here's the real plot twist. Jay-Z's not done. The man's in his mid-50s and still adding commas to his balance sheet. Whether it's tech startups, film projects, or new business ventures, Hav keeps evolving. Because in Jay's world, comfort is the enemy. Every time you think he's peaked, he reinvents himself, like a one-man IPO that never stops expanding. From selling mixtapes in Brooklyn to outbidding tech moguls in Malibu, this is a man who turned hustle into heritage. His story isn't just about fame, it's about ownership. Ownership of music, ownership of narrative, ownership of destiny, and that's the real flex. Not the mansions, not the cars, not even the Basquiat on the wall. It's the fact that Jay-Z built a system where his kids will never have to choose between culture and capital. So when you look at Jay-Z's billionaire lifestyle, the houses, the jets, the art, the legacy, you're not just seeing luxury, you're seeing proof. Proof that vision, timing, and audacity can rewrite what's possible. Because in the end, Jay-Z's not just living the American dream, he rebranded it. And if you've been inspired by this journey, from Marcy projects to Malibu cliffs, hit that like button, subscribe, and join the movement. Because as Hav himself would say, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman, and the blueprint still being written.